Whether I'm photographing near or far from where I live, I try to embrace a sense of discovery.
Sometimes not taking a photograph can be as problematic as taking one. Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And this is episode 180 for the end of March 2023. Wow. And I do want to acknowledge, well, first of all, hi, Ward.
Hi, Antonio.
I want to acknowledge you first. But actually, yeah, no, I do want to acknowledge you. And I want to acknowledge this. I posted this up on Twitter, and it's not anything... It's not like we've reached some sort of famous anniversary, but I did want to, I suddenly was looking at the episode number that we're doing tonight, and then we're at 180, and I was like, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of episodes to have in the can. So I wanted to sort of, you saw my post on Facebook and Twitter. So
congratulations,
part of that,
man.
Well, congratulations to both of us. And I wanted to, again, I want to thank you for joining me on this crazy thing that we're doing here. Maybe not so crazy, but...
Well, I'm happy to do it. It's fun, and I get to talk about photography every couple of weeks. So
yeah, me too. And, I saw that Tom, I posted that, and Tom was still on Twitter, which I was kind of surprised at. I don't know why. Yeah. And he said that he was happy to be part of it, and that, we put wings on it and it took off and stuff like that. So I just want to acknowledge that. I mean, yeah, the next anniversary is, 200 would be the next big number, but I didn't want to wait that long because that's going to be at this point next year. And so I just wanted to acknowledge where we've been at this point, and we've gotten our listenership is growing slightly. I mean, it's I'm really grateful to all the people who listen to the show and decide that we're worth, we have something to say to them. And the other thing I was thinking of was that, I was listening to NPR the other day, and they have a new host coming on, and she was saying how, how different radio is from television, and television plays to the room, but radio plays to a single person. And I sort of lump podcasts into that. I think we're not much different than that. So, to the one person who's got us in their ears, thank you for listening and putting up with us. But it's kind of cool.
I like that. I like that metaphor. I think it's
yeah, me too.
It's very cool.
It also just makes me think slightly differently, actually, between our last episode and this. And I realized, yes, we are talking to one person at a time, and there's all these individuals who are listening to us and giving us feedback now and then, and sending messages and sending us books and stuff like that. And I never expected this to happen. When I was looking at the Facebook thing that came up, and it said, "Oh, I did 13 episodes, and it was 2,000 replays," and I was so excited about that.
Yeah, it was a round number, right?
Yeah, it was a round number, and Tom was still. I think Tom and I did it until we did 50 episodes, more or less. I don't know if he was on every episode, but we did 50 together. Anyway, I wanted to acknowledge that. So, cool. So thanks for joining me on this, Ward.
No problem. Again. It's my pleasure, and I really like doing it. And you're doing most of the work. I'm just sitting here in my basement.
Believe me, you're doing a lot of work. You're the other half of the brain here, and otherwise I'm a half brain here. I can't figure this stuff out myself. So this other stuff that we're doing, the technical stuff, that's not work. That's fun. Well, it's not fun. So before we get into the main gist of what we wanted to talk about tonight, I did want to acknowledge the situation over at DP Review. And I wasn't thinking initially to want to talk about it, but since everybody is talking about it, and we're a bunch of days into it now, so it's nothing new, and I'm sure everybody's been hearing about it, that Amazon is... Well, first of all, I didn't know that Amazon owned DP Review. I just never paid enough attention to the...
Yeah, I think they purchased it in 2007 somewhere.
Really? That long? Oh,
2008.
Boy, I'm just not paying attention. well, Amazon decided to close them down, but I think the worst part of it, and it seems what is affecting everybody. I mean, not only are they getting rid of a fine group of people who are dedicated to telling us so much about cameras and photography, but for no reason or none that they're letting us know, is that they're going to erase the damn site, which to me is it makes me pissed off.
Yeah.
And the reason, I'm thinking like DP review has become one of those things ubiquitous in my, research and photography and cameras and the gear and stuff like that, that I almost don't even give it any mind. And that's not, I'm not trying to, it's like, I don't know how to say this. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
it's
like
going
I just
to
fired
Google,
up.
going
Yeah,
to
go to Google,
do your
right?
search.
Exactly.
You don't even, yeah.
Exactly. I thought DP review is in a sense the Google of photography. In fact, when I was working at B&H, one of the things I did while I was there is I had access to a computer, and when there was a downtime, I would log on to DP review, and they had the camera comparison features. So you could load up a bunch of, like, I think 6 or 7 cameras, and you could load up all the specs that you wanted to see. And I had access to a couple of printers there. So while I was not doing anything and I was learning, like I'm working in the Canon booth, I would go to DP review and like list all the DSLRs or list all the mirrorless cameras and put them in comparisons. And I would print them out and would have this sort of cheat sheet that I could use while I was learning. And boy, that was helpful. In fact, when
particularly if you're getting into video, right? How all the different codecs and whether they can do, 4K at 60 or 4K at 30.
Yeah, it was amazing. I printed these things out. I actually gave them when other trainees were coming in. I would let them use, like, if I was in the Canon booth, but then I moved to the Sony booth. I didn't need the Canon stuff anymore, and I left it there, and I would let a trainee use it, so they would have something to learn. And it, again, like I said, it didn't even occur to me that, it was like Googling, here's DP review. And so the thing that is getting everybody angry is, Amazon's got money coming out the wazoo, and what pain is it for them to leave the website up, because it's such a resource of just a resource. And it's a travesty to lose that. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I'm upset about it too. I think of the times when I'm jonesing for a particular camera and I read the early review and the specs, and then there's a forum thread starts up and people are talking about it, and some people are way off base and other people understand things a little bit more. And then the moderators come in and clear things up. And that there's a whole culture of DP review and the sample images, like, just there's a whole, there's a whole part of, it's the whole thing, of important resource that we're losing. Yeah, I'm pretty upset about it too.
And there's no way we can download that. There's no way anybody's been offered to buy it, or they're offered to sell it, or just let it be open source and let the community run it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I hope there's some solution somehow or other, but
it's supposed to close down like April 10th or something like that. Yeah. So by the time we do our next show, we'll know if there's anything that's changed or not. But and I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and I have something to say about that in a second. But I've been watching YouTube videos, and everybody's been really angry at Amazon for doing this, and just the outpouring. And it's good to hear that Chris and Jordan are going to be moving over to Petapixel.
Yeah.
So it'd be exciting to see what they're going to do there and what kind of freedoms they'll have. And, so I feel to me, they're the ones who are the point people, because I only see them, and everybody who works at DP Review, they're sort of in the background. They're sort of the visual, the faces of DP Review, because I'm watching them. But my sadness goes out to everybody who's been affected by this, and I wish them all the best, and hopefully we'll see them crop up in something new.
Yeah, well, Chris and Jordan are local to me, right? They're in Calgary, and I know Jordan's wife pretty well. She works at the camera store. Maybe we should see if we can't get them on the show.
I would love to get them on
something
the
like
show.
that is on.
Yeah, get both of them to talk about photography or something. We'll figure out a subject. We won't hash over this. But let me go back to the Amazon thing for a second. I'm going to switch hats a little bit here.
Okay.
And so this is going to be a little bit of a rant, and bear with me for a second. But and I'm not going to mention names, but from some of the videos that I was hearing and people being upset and outraged at some of this with Amazon pulling the plug on DP Review, that these entities on YouTube have also made mention that they're going to be removing their Amazon affiliate links as almost in a sense like a protest to this. And I find that is admirable. I get it, and it makes sense. But there's like, I was thinking about this for a minute. There's something that's bothering me about that a little bit. And it's because, and so I have Amazon affiliate links that I sell. You know, I when I post links to books, right? And I understand what Amazon has done. Sorry, this is I'm sort of taking sides here, which is not something I do on the show a lot. Maybe I'm not taking sides, but the whole story about Amazon and how they exploded and what Amazon has done to the small stores. I'm sure Camera Store has been affected by it. I'm sure there's dozens of small mom and pop places that have been affected by Amazon. What gets me a little bit is this sort of the straw broke the camel's back for these entities on YouTube to pull their affiliate links. Why wasn't it bothering them in general that Amazon has been actually doing this for a long time? Like suddenly this thing is what broke the camel's back for these entities. And I was like, well, but if this was so concerning to you, and this is why you're pulling your affiliate links now, why weren't you doing it before? Why would you have affiliate links in the first place if you know that they've been affecting mom and pop stores and whatnot, and especially for those entities who have a very large following? I think. I mean, and I can't justify it. I mean, I've got them. I don't have them any listeners. I don't think I've had any. Actually, I've never made any money on affiliate links with Amazon at all. I just have it. I did it a while ago, and I keep using it. And I live with that decision, and it's fine. I'm outing myself. That's what I do. I'm not yet saying I'm going to pull my affiliate links because they did DP Review. I have to come up with my moral, decision about how do I feel about Amazon in general, right? And so, to me, it just sounds a little hypocritical. Maybe that's too hard of a word. I don't know. What do you think? I don't want to put you on the spot either. I mean,
I have Amazon. I'm in Amazon Marketplace, Ornest Photos on the Amazon Marketplace. I mean, a lot of my sales come through those channels.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And by the way, I have no judgment on you about this at all. I mean, to me, actually, in some sense, since you're a mom and pop store too. So at this point, but.
So, I mean, I do get sales from the Amazon Marketplace, so it works for me because it actually provides most of my sales.
Right. You're not what I guess I'm saying is that you're not making a protest about DP Review and pulling your affiliate links.
No.
It's not That's not what you're doing. So I guess what I'm saying is what do you think about these people who are doing this? Or am I putting you on spot by
well, no, I haven't. Well, maybe a little bit, but I am sad and angry because it seems like they look at the dollar value of what DP Review might be bringing in, and perhaps when they're looking at doing these cuts for whatever reason, and I don't know what those reasons are, possibly legitimate. Could they not have spared this valuable resource, or is there something nefarious going on? But there's a reason why they want to get rid of DP Review. I don't know. No, it just. I mean, my reaction to it won't go to burning the house down or anything. It's just, as I said, sad and angry that we're losing this great site.
Yeah,
and all the talent that's there.
Yeah, all the talent's there, and Anyway, I just, in a way, I'm sort of calling out the folks on who I've seen on YouTube making that statement, and I'm actually just very curious about it. I mean, I'm really curious why would this be the decision, and I'm sure Amazon has done this to a lot of different entities over time. But I mean, they're photography related, YouTubers, and I'm sure that it's upsetting to them. And I'm sure, I don't know if it'll make a difference. Maybe it will to Amazon to see, some YouTuber who's got, a couple of million subscribers decide to pull their affiliate links. That actually might make a difference. Maybe it will make a difference. Maybe it'll get on their radar or something like that. But well, anyway.
Or I don't know, possibly you looking at their customer reviews of items within the Amazon marketplace itself.
Have you ever read customer reviews on Amazon?
Well, hey,
that's a sitcom waiting to happen.
Yeah,
that's actually that's a good idea. Making a web series sitcom about Amazon reviews. Just using those as storylines.
And have it run on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Self-referential, whatever.
Oh, yes. Well, you heard it here first, people. If that happens, we get credit for it.
It's okay. Anyway. I would watch it.
Probably I would watch it too. So, yeah. Anyway, I acknowledge my sadness and anger at Amazon doing that. And again, wish everybody a DP review. If anybody listens to the show who knows anybody there, or even if anybody who works there listens to the show, be nice to hear from you, or just good luck. Fingers crossed for you guys. For the first time, not for the first time, but this is the Street Shots podcast, right? We need to talk about street photography.
Yeah, but we had been for a while.
Well, yeah, I know, but it's like, yes, we have been.
Well, about our own work, which maybe
that's true.
Doesn't
of our
have
own
a
work.
generalized appeal.
Yeah, go back to
we're an acquired taste.
Yeah. Actually, no, we do talk about street photography, but
Yeah.
When we were trying to figure out who to talk about, we wanted to talk about somebody today. The name Alex Webb popped up somewhere in that discussion, and I'm actually kind of a little shocked that it's 180 episodes. I haven't talked about Alex Webb.
We haven't talked about Alex Webb, yeah.
And to be honest, Alex did not really appear on my radar for a long, long time. And so I feel like I'm just starting to learn about him more and more recently. Recently, a couple of Christmases ago, Elizabeth had bought for me his book that he did with his wife called Brooklyn, The City Within. And it was a great book. It's a collaboration between the two of them photographing in Brooklyn.
The two
Alex
of them,
shooting.
Alex and his wife, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rebecca Norris Webb. The book is done in 3 parts. The middle part is her photographic essay on Prospect Park, which is Brooklyn's version of Central Park. And then the back and front sections are Alex walking the streets doing the streets of Brooklyn, different neighborhoods and stuff. So anyway, that's sort of this is my first Alex Webb book. Anyway, when we decided to talk about him, I ended up buying this other book.
You're pulling ahead of me in terms of purchases per month.
You're the one who got me started on this. This was. But I kept hearing about. I was doing stuff. I was looking up his stuff on YouTube, and of course, this book was coming up a lot, which is The Suffering of Light. So it's a giant book from Alex from Aperture. It's very well printed and is very inexpensive. That's why I got it, so that we could talk about it. But of course, I can't show the pictures because we're a podcast. So we figured we'd talk about them.
Sure.
So who wants to start?
I'll start. I'll talk about his style a little bit because
please.
It's a very you could say, how do I put this? He has a style. He has a very particular style, and it is not a simple style. His images are really layered. There's foreground and background. There's silhouette. the whole frame is completely full of details. Sometimes it looks like when you look at his images, they appear chaotic, but after you look at them for a while, things kind of settle down. There's, parts of the frame that seem to be independent of others. He's a color. He works in color. All his recent books are color, and it's used to great effect. He manages to capture not just the atmosphere of where he's shooting, but there's an emotional and poetic aspect to his work, which makes him very unique. I don't know anyone who is close to him. You could say he's a cross between this or that. I know some pictures, and I know some of the pictures that I believe he took in Cuba. They look quite a bit like Henri Cartier-Bresson, like just the layout of them, the kids against the wall, and some is reminiscent of a previous Cartier-Bresson image. But other than that, he's definitely of himself, and there's lots to look at, man. If you get one of his books, there's a great deal to see there.
Yeah, and I can be thankful for this in this book. I'm looking at it now. Well, actually, most of the book has one picture with no picture on the other page, so you only get one picture at a time. There's sometimes double pictures, but it's a book well worth looking through multiple times. The interesting thing about his story, I don't think we need to go into his background too much, but he started off in his photographic life shooting black and white, going to all these locations, Mexico and wherever else, and realizing that black and white was not enough for him. It wasn't enough to answer the visuals that he was seeing with his eyes, and so eventually he turned to color. And on that point, I thought it was interesting because he was in the days of film, so he's working with black and white film, and then he's going to color. So he's processing the black and white, and then he's shooting Kodachrome afterwards. And it's interesting to jump ahead to now, because photographers who are getting into this world of photography start shooting color, right? Because that's the default that cameras are now into, unless you're one of these guys who buys the Leica, what is it, the is it the M10? The black and white version?
The
black and white version.
M10 monochrome.
Monochrome, yeah. But when you buy a camera and the first thing you do and you take it out of the box, you're going to be shooting color pictures. So then you move to black and white, or you have to move to black and white. There are photographers who start in the black and white. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting because of the times that, he's starting in film. You most likely you're going to start in black and white. But in terms of his style of photography, it's a definite style. Even his black and white work. And someone actually was reading an article, an essay about him, and it was described in the essay that one of his photography students at ICP described his work as migraine photographs.
Yeah. I don't think that's fair, actually.
It depends on your sensibility, I think. It depends on how your eye is acclimated to a style of photography. Yes, I mean, you could look at some of his pictures and just say, what is going on? And I don't know if that was meant as a negative. It was just in terms of like what you said, there's so much going on in so many of his pictures.
But they aren't, I mean, how do I put that? There's complexity in the images he's chosen, but they're not muddled or jarring. You can look at them. I think you used an expression. I think when we were on a bit of a feeding frenzy yesterday, going through the materials that we had in front of us, and what did you said something? Oh, now it's left me.
What, when we were talking in Discord?
When we're talking back and forth on Discord, you had said.
I know. I said describing his images like. Hang on, I'll look at them. I'll look for this. You keep going, and I'll.
Anyway, just jumping back a bit, I knew of Alex Webb, but I wasn't aware, like you, yesterday especially, going over a lot of his material and stuff that I have. he does a lot of things that I would aspire to do, which is, carve the frame up into different sections, which is a thing I do, but much more simply. He captures a lot of complexity, like I said, without being muddled. And what he does do that I don't seem to be able to do is have a poetic aspect, a humanity to the images. Maybe that's part of that is because of his travel, the work that he does when he travels. And he does all that within these complex images. It's not just a mother holding a child and that there's a human connection there. There's a whole suite of humanity of people in the image that represent humanity. And I know what you're going to say. Did you want to say?
Go ahead. You say
that you said it was like a Renaissance painting.
Renaissance paintings. Yeah. The thing that popped in my mind was a painting. What's his name? I know his last name is David. What is it? Jacques Louis David painting, or his work in general. But I had written there was the death of Socrates, and maybe it's not an exact comparison. But what I remember of that image of that painting is that there's so many things going on, or even like something like the Last Supper. Or something like that, where there's you can look at the overall and there's one giant story or image going on, and then as you start, it's like a fractal. You start to dive in deep to it, and there are multiple stories that are going on in the painting that relate to the overall. And as I'm looking through his work, Webb's work, I'm finding that same kind of experience, that there's the overall. And there's all these little parts that equal the overall or exceed the overall. And the other thing
there's sub-stories. There are sub-stories.
Sub-stories.
Subjects. Yeah.
And what I'm kind of stuck because one of the things I do with when I teach my street photography class, I try to talk about this a little bit, and then these are beginning photographers, so I try not to go too much in depth. But one of the things I pay attention to is to make sure they don't think that the imagery that I'm showing them is a result of luck, that the photographer is somehow able to see this and make an image at the appropriate time. And then, I look at Webb's pictures and I go back to thinking wrongly, of course, but is this guy lucky or what? And he's not. He's an incredibly skilled visual artist.
He puts himself in those locations, in those places, and he waits, and he captures it when he does. I mean, one of his quotes was, his work is 99.9% failure, right?
Right.
And that's true. And we know that, you and I know that as street photographers. It's not like we're going into a studio and we're going to have all these pretty pictures of a single subject who's lit perfectly. We're watching the light. We're adapting to it. We're, trying to get things as best we can. Fortune favors the prepared.
Right.
And then when the light is right and the subjects happen to be there, then it's up to us to capture it.
Did you happen to listen to the podcast,
I did.
the Team Deacons podcast?
I've subscribed to that, actually.
I subscribed to it, too. I listened to it. It was a really great discussion. And he said something like that, it was almost like I can't, if this is the direct quote or I'm just interpreting that he smelled, like he could smell something is about to happen. And that idea that he's been doing this long enough that he could sense physically that there's perhaps some magic about to happen. Like you said, 99% of the time it doesn't happen. Or it doesn't manifest into anything. But because he's persistent and perseveres at it, that 1% is what we're looking at in front of us right now. Those pictures and that amount of energy. But like he described in the podcast, a photograph that he was taking in, I think it was in Istanbul, of a barber shop. And he was working with the reflections, and he Deakins asked him how many pictures he took, and he said he hung out there for about 6 rolls worth of film in order to get that one shot, 5 or 6 rolls of film, which is enormous amount of patience, and also going to show you that it wasn't quite happening right away when he smelled something and he got the picture that he wanted, but it took him 180 frames more or less, if that was ballparking, to get the one that he ended up presenting. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about this guy.
Well, one thing I got from that, hearing him in his own voice, there are a lot of photographers that offer workshops, and you too, and there are a lot of workshops that I think are geared towards making a picture that looks like what the instructor would. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to take pictures of skylines. I don't really want to take, because this guy does this. He's just going to, or she's just going to teach me how to take a picture like hers. What I got from the Alex Webb podcast on the Team Deakins, on the Team Deakins podcast with Alex talking, was he's so matter of fact, down to earth, not down to earth, but he wasn't using a bunch of lofty, artistic expression, uppity. He was just saying, no, this happened and that happened, and I don't shoot as much as I do, and blah, blah, blah. And I just like that kind of straightforward, concrete idea of what he's doing. And I would definitely go to one of his workshops. And I think he and Rebecca share the load on those workshops, just to get the mindset. And he would definitely be, one of our previous guests, right? Sandra Cantaneo Adorno, those beach pictures from Rio, she started basically in their workshop.
Right.
She was talking about how disappointed she was in the work. And Alex and Rebecca are like, well,
weren't they instrumental in helping her move forward with the project?
Absolutely. Yes.
They were, right. Yeah.
They were.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about his, well, first of all, let's talk about his effect on you a little bit, because when as I'm starting to learn more about him and how much, the two things he's well known for, not mostly, but his book, or his project in Mexico, we're going to Mexico, and then Haiti. But the difference between those two is Haiti was a very short term project compared to Mexico, which he's the border also he's done for many decades. Yeah. And so when I heard that, and the first thing I thought about was your foray into Mexico and how that made you feel and excited. And I was just wondering how much of Webb, since you sort of, I think, knew more about him than I did, affected you in making that trip.
Well, there's no doubt when I was doing the research to going there were Alex Webb pictures that were in that grouping, when I would just show, pictures of Mexico, blah, 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 that weren't touristy. Mm-hmm. And I had written a blog article on the Unusual Collective site about, I desperately did not want to take tourist pictures there, or present a project that looked like a bunch of tourist travel images. I wanted to have here is the place, here's what I saw, not here's me peering in from the outside looking at it. You look at Alex Webb's pictures, and there's definitely that component. It's definitely that he's there and he's presenting what he sees in front of him. The humanity that you get is not a gawking humanity. You're not, oh, look at these poor people. It is the kind of beauty and the humanity of the people that you're looking at. So that's what I, subconsciously, if you want to say, one of the victories of the Mexico trip, and it's only been one for me. So I don't know when I'm going to be able to get down there now, but it's not a good place to travel right now. But but yeah, there was that component of him being comfortable where he is and capturing in a very vivid way what he saw. Contrast that a little bit with I think it was 2 years he did in Haiti. It's a little more jarring is too strong a word, but it's a little bit more seen from the outsider. You're kind of looking across at the subjects a little more than being able to. You're seeing some of the suffering going on there, so the images are kind of taken from a different perspective. They're still amazing, beautiful, humanity-filled images, but my sense is they're definitely from an outsider's point of view.
Yeah.
And I did not know about the Haiti pictures until we were doing the research for this podcast. So it may be an unfair comment, but that was the image, or the perspective that I felt, or that I inferred from looking at those.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm good. All done. I'll stop talking.
All done. How, in our show notes, he's talking a lot about his color, his use of color. It's interesting. Did you, when you went to Mexico, you decided on purpose not to do color?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no. I mean, for my, whatever you want to call them, establishing shots, or the pictures that I knew would look touristy, because I still did want to document it. My artistic brain was not working in color, but I do have quite a few, I think, beautiful color images from it. But they're not part of my soul feeding, Mexico images that I imagined would be in black and white. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
No, there was no question. It was just, his movement into color in finding these places that he goes and realizing that he was, these are places of rich color, and he was, I want to say ignoring it. That would not be his words, but his photography was ignoring it, and he finally, realized he's, hit a block in terms of photography, and realized this, all this color, this saturated, beautiful color exists down there, and it's part of the fabric of society there in the places that he visits. And to be fair, he's also, doing the same thing, not only in these Caribbean countries, but wherever he seems to visit now, and is absorbing the color in all the places. What's really interesting also is that so much of his color work presented in the books was done when he was photographing using Kodachrome.
Right.
So another photographer, we were talking about, what's his name from Saskatchewan?
Everett Baker.
Everett Baker, and those Kodachrome colors are so much of the fabric of the photographer too, understanding how the color is going to react to the film. It's just, it's something to pay attention to.
And he did a project at the end of Kodachrome. Do you know about that one?
No.
He went
went
to Rochester, New York, the home of Kodak, to shoot his last rolls of Kodachrome.
Oh, he did mention that in the podcast, didn't he? A little bit.
I discovered it in my research.
He talked about something about Rochester and the last rolls of Kodachrome, but I didn't know he. I didn't know he was shooting the last.
He was celebrating or mourning the end of Kodachrome by going to Rochester to shoot there.
I'm curious what he shoots with now, because what has served his purposes to get the kind of color that he likes to do. I mean, certainly digital cameras are not reacting the same way as Kodachrome is in any respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't think he mentioned in that podcast, in the Team Deacons podcast. I don't think.
Maybe it was one of the other ones I was listening to. So, we got, actually, there's a ton of sirens going on outside, so I'm not going to mute it. There's something actually going on out there, which I don't want to know.
Yeah. But show your face at the window, man.
No, I'm not going to show my face at the window. No. there's as I'm going through this book, there was some pictures. The book is a mix of different locations: Brooklyn, Istanbul, Havana, Brazil, and there are all these different places, and the theme through the pictures is this enormous amount of just framing and composition and serendipity in the photographs and in this amazing. Actually, I wanted to talk about one picture. I have to describe it since I can't show it to you. Well, I don't know. Maybe I could show it to you, but then I'll describe it for the audience. This picture.
Oh yeah.
This drives me crazy. So
I know. Yeah, me too.
So it took me a while to figure it out. This is not a. I mean, the color is not. The color is not important in this picture, but what it looks like to me, what it first looked like was a wall, and there's a child. There's like this. There's two children in it, or at least there's a face of one child that's close to the camera, and there's another child off to the upper right corner, and it looks like to me this kid is stuck up on a wall of gravel, and then there's this hole with this child's face poking through another part of the picture. That's what it looked like to me, and it took me an incredibly long time to understand what was going on in this picture. And then I realized, maybe I shouldn't say because I should leave the mystery for people. No, I'll have to say because now I made this.
You have to say, yeah. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Spoiler alert, yeah. The photograph, it looks like he's looking down over a wall at two children playing on a gravel field. And one kid is just contorted and looking up at him closer to the wall. But because his body is underexposed, it kind of looks like a hole. So it's a hole with this disembodied face and this sort of a weird hand sticking at the back. And then the other child is just on the ground on this gravel. But I had this weird effect, sort of like, when you look at a vase that has the face carved into it, like two things are going on. But my brain could not make sense of this picture at all. The book is filled with stuff like this.
I think it's
How does someone see this way? How does someone see this way?
Practice. I think he just can do it. He puts himself in these circumstances, and he waits, like your barbershop. The barbershop.
But do you think he pre-visualizes when he sees this? I mean, of course,
well,
he's not here
he's
not here to answer the question.
I'm just going to guess. I'm just going to make it up here. I think
he might not even know himself.
He camps out. Well, there's that, but I want to think that he camps out and he waits for the moment, and he can put himself in those.
But how to think about the moment? I look at. There's another picture in here. Well, I'm not going to find it right away. Oh, well, actually, there's one image that's very powerful of a murder outside of a bar or something in Mexico, and there's a man's body in the street, and there's all these people sort of surrounding him, sort of against the wall. That's why it looks like a painting. There's that everything seems to be happening against a backdrop, and when I start it, I hate to say it's a beautiful picture because it's this picture of this poor guy who's been killed somehow, and then these women are weeping over him, and everybody's it's just the sadness in it. And then I look at this compositionally and color wise, and there's all the stuff going on in it that is very easy to see right away. Like there are the angle of the people, there are these triangles that are going on. There's this, like I said, there's this flatness to it as if it was a painting.
Like you could see it as a 10-foot wide canvas.
Yeah. And this is just one example of it. It's interesting because there's this dichotomy of the beauty of it and the sadness at the same time. And that again pops up in so many of his pictures. There's these kind of contradictions that come on in the pictures. And oh, you know what? Talk about so anyway, let me get back to that for a second. The very much of a painting style, the flatness of it, the way figures are distributed around that. and my part of my brain can't imagine being practiced enough to it's almost like he's seeing ahead. He's seeing in the future. He's seeing the future somehow. And then he's able to snap it. Like somehow his mind or some part of his being can sense a composition that's coming in. He said that he can smell something is going to happen. He can smell that 99% of the time it doesn't happen, but this 1% of the time, which is enough with him, he is able to hit the shutter at the right time and get these complex compositions that it doesn't take an art historian to figure out. When you look at it,
Right.
you're just, like I said, if you go to a museum and you look at Renaissance art, it's kind of pretty obvious what's going on, and it kind of, especially with these beautiful paintings, it can hit you in a moment. This guy's pictures are the same way, and I'm actually, you know what, I had a theory of this once, and it's funny, I stopped talking about this. I watched this science show about the subconscious, and I don't remember what the show was, but they it was, I think the premise, this is not going to be right. The premise was, can we tell the future? And the science in the show, and of course, I'm sure people are going to say, well, it's been refuted or blah 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 blah, but it wasn't like In Search of Mysteries kind of thing.
Right.
This was like scientists talking about subconscious, and this one part came on to talk about subconscious and how that the subconscious was working like a couple of seconds ahead of our what we were aware of.
Okay.
So that the brain or the subconscious is like what we think is reality or what we're doing is actually like a second or two behind our subconscious. And so I began to wonder about that, how that fits into photography, or does it, if that's true. Can it, with practice and with practice, it wasn't like a natural skill thing. It was just something that you could work on and hone. That with practice, you could train, your subconscious could be trained to see something or be aware of something, and then allow your conscious part of your body to react and to be able to do that. I don't know if that,
Absolutely.
it's going
In fact,
too
I
much
have an
into that.
No, but I can illustrate that in my own life too. In high school, I was a conductor for our band,
You were?
like a student conductor, and there's nothing more nerdy than standing in front of a bunch of musicians, waving around a fiberglass stick. But anyway, so yeah, I did that, and you have to be, when you're reading from a conductor score, you have to be a beat or two ahead of the orchestra. And so you're in two places at the same time. Your perception is reading the music and keeping the time and all that kind of stuff, and you're just a little bit ahead of where your arms are keeping time and bringing in the different sections and so on. And that happens after, and you're split. You're in two states at the same time.
So
It's really hard.
I can imagine, but is it something that you trained to do, or just sort of
no,
happened
it's something
naturally
you
after
have to
time?
get. Well, I didn't know, because I had no real formal training in how to conduct other than some guidelines. But you found out pretty quickly that you had to be in that state in order to make it all the way through a particular piece. And you know what? When you and I are walking the street, we do have like, oh, there's something going to go on here. It's not exactly we can't really smell it so much. Well, you can smell the streets of New York, which I enjoyed.
Hey.
hey there. Hey there.
Actually, you can.
And there's something coming up in front of us. And I had quite a few moments where I was, and you get yourself in the right place, and you hope something happens, and every now and then it does.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously happening with him quite often, and given that he travels,
and given
so much,
how rich his material is, it's pretty
yeah,
freaking amazing.
He the one other picture that is amazing is these bathers in a waterfall in Haiti that he photographed in 1987. And again, there's so much going on. There's foreground, there's out of focus people in the foreground. There's a woman under a waterfall on the right. There are these people on the left, a mother and a child. You can see her back and the child's hand. And in the background, sort of along this other waterfall, there are these people going all the way up this hill where the water started from. And again, you don't need to be this, I'm going to say a rocket scientist, it's not the right word, but like, you know, an art critic or someone who's been well versed in the history of the arts to look at this and understand the composition, how, you know, it's there. And again, it's one of these amazing things about him that he seems to have this ability, and I'm grateful for it because it's great to be able to share his eye, or that he shares his eye with all of us, to be able to see those moments. And these are just everyday moments everywhere, you know, and he's not just doing it in these exotic locations. He's this other shot, this great one on a bridge in, where is it? In Munich, where there's this, a bicyclist sort of resting on a bridge. And he's on the left side, and there's a hole in the bridge, with what looks like a target. And it's like a metal design. And there's a surfer in the river below, and the target is directly on the surfer.
Yeah.
And he was talking about this on his podcast, and this is where it made me think about the subconscious a little bit, because he said that, I think he even said in the show that he's not always aware of what he captured in his frame. He wasn't aware in this specific shot that the target was directly on the surfer at all. He only saw that after the fact, and that's what made me think about the subconscious, because that's always running in the background, you know, and it's searching. And once you're training it, or once it's trained to, this is the kind of stuff we're going to be looking for, because you're in partnership with your subconscious, that it's going to say, you know, yeah, you may not be aware of this, but I'm aware of it. There's a surfer, and there's this target, and now you're going to click the shutter. And then you click the shutter and you say, well, I'm not consciously aware that I grabbed it, but some part of you is, because you did it. It wasn't just a lucky situation. And, you know, someone who's maybe not versed in photography would look at his work and say he's been lucky. And I don't ever subscribe to that. It's that, you know, when someone in my class, and, you know, they're new students, and I asked them, the photographer lucky or is he skilled? Lucky. I'm like, no, if he's lucky, then you're dismissing all that time and energy that a photographer or photographers do. We might as well just be a million monkeys typing, you know, and getting a Shakespeare after a while. So,
well, we have all these books, right? Yeah. There's some will and talent involved in this, in creating this work. There's no doubt about it. It's amazing.
One of the things I've started to think about is like looking at his pictures and realizing for my own stuff that I've tended to, like we're putting the zine together. We're trying to put the zine together for the two of us. We got to work on that. But I started to think, like I was presenting a lot of my stuff as black and white, and I realized I have a whole bunch of color work, and it made me start to think about how dismissive I was of the color, that I was just going to the black and white work. And then actually, after picking up his book or talking about him, and this idea of color and how important it is in pictures sometimes, that I might need to go back and look at the selections I was making for the zine and think about maybe, you know, going back and incorporating color. But it's really making me think about this, like seeing his work and wondering how color is going to play, you know, a part in the kind of stuff that I want to do. I know that for you, black and white is for now where it's at.
Yeah, but I mean, I do have color pictures of Mexico that might fit that bill. Like, I mean, as you're saying this, I'm kind of doing the same evaluation. So I'll definitely take a look at those color images I have. and they are colorful and they are beautiful. So that can happen.
Yeah. So one of the things you were I noticed that you put in our notes about this is a color that comes out of tension between light and dark. Tell me what you were thinking about that when you're looking at his work.
Well, it's a combination. Like I'm used to tones, right? Yeah, emotion and the arresting aspect of the image being the tones. I'm always saying, "Oh, tones, tones, tones." It's so beautiful. The silveriness of the image.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where he does well. We complements of colors and color science and all that kind of stuff. He uses the relationship of the colors by the pictures he selects to create tension or harmony or whatever it is, to give it that. I don't use the word painterly because it's definitely
Right.
a photograph, but using some of the same kind of visual visual attributes in terms of color and light and dark. You can really leverage color.
Yeah. And
That's
also
really what I meant.
yeah, okay. And you also talk about it's part of his work a lot, but remember you mentioned this in regards to one of your images, and you were talking about this on our unusual collective board, but the division of the picture,
Yeah.
where there's something in the middle, or there's something that's dividing. Like you said, what did you call that in your work? You said something like
That's dividing the frame, I think. Is
no,
that the
something like
expression
sphere.
is?
You said something about a sphere, like hemispheres.
Oh, hemispheres. Oh, that's a while
That was
ago.
your phrase of it, but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but the gist of it I got with, like, especially with Webb's work, is that there's often, many times in some of his pictures, there's some obvious dividing
Yeah.
section. Talk about that a little bit. And I mean, since you've got that
Well, I mean,
experience, and
all I
what,
can say is that I like some of the street images I took, particularly years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, where I was really kind of going after it, doing hemispheres or having, dividing the frame up into, let's just say two for the sake of argument, where each one on its own could kind of stand as its own composition, but you put them together in the same frame and it has a different meaning, a different vibe. So that's what I can do with my limited skill. What Webb can do is, it's almost like you're looking through a cracked mirror, like there are shards. Every shard has its own story about it. Whether that's an actual dividing line of something structural, like going through the frame, or just simply that the subjects are separated a little bit in their own world in that flat way that you were talking about, where each one of them has a story, like the Last Supper, where you can tell, each of the apostles has their own expression and their own presence. I think, and that's really magic to his work and really inspiring. So,
yeah, he's got that one shot. I don't know if you are aware of it. In Barbados, shot through a car, or from the inside of a car, and there's the strut, not strut.
A pillar.
The pillar, is that A pillar?
A pillar is the one at the front by the windshield.
Yeah, A pillar. Okay, good. I didn't know that. The A pillar is dividing the frame, and there's three young women outside of the frame, look like schoolgirls. And there's two on the right side, and then there's the A pillar dividing, and then there's the third girl on the left side. And what ends up happening is you instinctually, you're on the inside of a car looking out of it, but suddenly the car disappears, at least for me, and this sort of triangular story is on the left, and the girls on the right are doing their own thing, and they're related because they're wearing the same clothing,
Right.
and they're sharing the same environment. There's the clouds and the grasses and stuff like that, and suddenly the car disappears, but it becomes this dividing section. Right. And like you said, the two parts are related, but then there's the whole on it. And then this seems to crop up in a lot of his images, these dividing segments. This other picture in Haiti, this great one, this one's insane, where there's this sort of pillar or tree stump right in the middle, and there's a hand on it, and there are these hands that are pointing in different directions, and there's people on the left and the right, and there's an ocean in the background. Do you know the picture I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And again, this thing is, how to see this and understand to snap that shot. I think he said he took only about 5 or 6 frames to get this image in this scene.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those images where you look at and the composition, the obviousness of the connections and the composition is there in front of you. And again, it has that painting kind of thing. There is a background, but the subjects in the foreground are very flat against this. So it's maybe not so much about color, although the color is important in this picture, but it's about the hands and the faces in this stuff. Anyway, I'm so glad I picked up this book because, I've never had a collection of his work before, and to be able, this is one of those you can pick up, I think, and look over and over and over again and continue to find just amazing details and information in the images that are in here. But I'm so glad to be learning about him. And again, people who are listening to the show probably know about him already, but I was like, maybe those, are just picking it up for the first time. So anyway, I'm noticing we've talked for a long time.
And we didn't even talk about you guys almost running into each other on Coney Island.
No. Then now that you mentioned, I got to quickly say.
Yeah, so just say that and then we'll
I'll say it quick.
up.
Yeah. So when I picked up the Brooklyn book and I looked through it, there is a picture of his that he took in my neighborhood. Actually, there's a couple in my neighborhood, and one was a bus stop, and I showed you the pictures. The same bus stop in my neighborhood. So he was walking around Kensington and Borough Park, and we were literally probably next to each other at a mermaid parade in 2015 because we actually photographed the same mother lobster and child shrimp against the same wall. Probably roughly at the same time, and it was a setup. It was the parade setup, and so they were only there for a certain amount of time. So we might have even been photographing simultaneously. And I wasn't aware, of course, because they set that up so people can take pictures for the parade. So photographers are allowed to go in there. So he could have been standing right next to me, and I wouldn't have known that. So I'll try. Maybe I'll put those pictures in the show notes or something like that. But yeah. Cool. I was very impressed to see him in my neighborhood. And in fact, I think the picture in the bus stop has a photograph. There's a woman in there who I may have photographed. And it's interesting to do comparisons, I'm sure like we all do that, to compare our work to the other people's work and see like how we see the same things, the same things differently, the same places and stuff like that differently. So of course my work is much inferior compared to his.
Mine too.
Yeah. But all right.
But these guys are inspiration. So
yeah, I would call this a shallow dive because I think we could probably do a lot. We could probably do another, 2 hours just talking about Webb and going into his stuff. And I would love to, to take a workshop with him. That would be really interesting. So yeah. Anyhow, well, thank you for spending some time talking about Alex.
No problemo.
Yeah.
My
so.
pleasure.
Well, that's it. Where can we find you? That's a cold end.
You can find me at Ward Rosin Photography on Facebook. I'm also W Rosin Photo on Twitter and Vero. And I'm Ward Rosin Fine Art on Instagram. And I have a little site called rosin.ca, which is where I sell my fine prints and the rodeo book that Mike Ryerson did a few years ago. And I have a little business called Ornis Photo. It's at ornis.photo, where I sell Asian sourced, or I guess 7 artisans, lenses for Fuji E-mount and Fuji
X mount and Sony
Fuji X mount and Sony E mount. I got to do some proper ad copy for this.
Yes, we'll have to.
And I also sell lens adapters for those mounts as well.
And there are
mounts again.
They're
unofficial
sponsors. Yeah, thank you. Cool.
Right. How about you, my friend? Where can I find you?
Where can I find me? I can find me with many places. Well, Twitter, I'm not spending as much time on, but AM Rosario on Twitter, AM Rosario on Vero, AM Rosario on Flickr. I got to get Flickr back up and running, actually, because I think it's a good photography place. And amrosario.com is my website, and I might switch my website soon someplace. I might want to go to Squarespace. I've been jonesing Squarespace. I'm almost done with my photography instruction site. So just beta testing it now, and I have to figure out a few other things. But I think I showed it to you. It looked pretty good. And so
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
when it's up, it will be for those of us who, if you've got friends and family who want to learn photography, I think it might be an interesting combo to have them come over to my site. But I'm not ready yet. I'm hoping to have that ready soon. I will. I have to get that done. So, but I am doing a beta test tomorrow with a friend. So I'm going to be testing out.
Who is not me.
It was not you teaching Lightroom Creative Cloud. So anyway, but we'll post that, and then at some point we'll have a zine coming up, which all these things, when we have them up, will help support the show, by the way. So that'll be good, because this is a show of love, and it'd be nice to have some support. And we're getting a lot of I get emails and books from people, and really appreciate all the people who are reaching out.
And I appreciate the comments. I've been getting comments from people on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah,
been very kind, and I really appreciate that, and really appreciate that you're listening to us and that you enjoy this show.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to know that there's why do people want to listen to us? My part of my brain says that, and I realize, no, we know what we're talking about, but I really enjoy that, and it's I feel grateful for.
Well, we think we know what we're talking about.
We think we know what we're talking about. Yeah. Especially this late at night, I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. So I'll have to see you in a couple of weeks.
You bet.
And have a good night to you out there in podcast land.
All right, you too.
All right.
I see this, or I hear that the sirens have calmed down. So.
The sirens have come down. I'm going to go look out the window when we're done. All right. Okay. Good night.
All right. Good night.
One time when I was in Greenwood, I was photographing a hawk, and he was just sort of looking around, and I made some kind of weird noise. Not trying to imitate a hawk, but trying to just get his attention. And all of a sudden his head snapped and he looked right at me. Yeah. And then he jumped off the thing and flew towards me. And I ended up ducking down. It wasn't going to fly over my head exactly, but he was close enough that it got me scared. It just took off. And I was like, it's the last time I'm going to call a bird with a stupid sound like that.
Did you get any pictures of him coming toward you, though?
No,
you were just
pictures.
terrified by
That's like the hawk is coming at me with these talons out.
Was he going to pick you up and carry you off?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
He'd probably mess up your forehead or something.
That's what I don't need. I don't need hawk talon holes in my face.
Yeah, but you have such a great story.